Hi everybody, welcome back to my next video. Speaking of, national parks and state parks here in Kentucky, several years ago, back when I was in high school, I wrote a version of the story to Hook, which was extremely Kentuckified of, the information. The roads, totally inaccurate. The roads that I said I went on to come home at the time, back at Fort Thomas, there was no way on this earth I could have possibly have done that. Okay? I mean, it was physically impossible. And, it's like, see, I said I went from Lake Cumberland State Resort Park, which I absolutely love, and I've taken Tony there. The first time Tony was there was in 2003, the year before he went to Mammoth Cave. It was the last time my grandfather was over there before he died. It was a family reunion. But here's who all I said was in the story. My friend Heather. Of course, I won't say what her last name was here because I haven't seen or spoken with her goofy tail in years and years, and I don't want to either, by the way, just for the record. And some of my younger cousins who were alive at that point. Well, there's a couple of things that, I should point out here, other than the fact that, the roads I said that I came home on weren't the roads I would have taken. Because there's several different ways. I've since looked at a map of Kentucky and actually told the correct streets to get home on. Since then, that's one thing. The other thing is, and I didn't point this out in the story, this was a huge discrepancy here. My younger cousins, who I said I drove home in my minivan that I borrowed from my parents, I said that, me and Heather rode home a bunch of my younger cousins, and my cousins' parents, who would be my, aunts and uncles, by my one parent, would not have allowed me to go anywhere with those kids in my vehicle. Not, like I'd kidnap the kids or, I was a bad driver or something. I was, neither. But, my aunts and uncles usually made a point to drive the kids home themselves, in their own vehicles. And like I said, there was like no way that I could have gotten from Lake Cumberland in State Resort Park to where Heather lived back in 1992, 93. At the north end of Fort Thomas where we lived. Because she lived at the north end of Fort Thomas and I lived at the south end. And she basically could catch a bus from her house to my house, get across town to, get where I lived. But what it is, back in 1992, 93, I said that I took Kentucky Route 8 from Lake Cumberland to home. Hello. Duh. There is no way on the face of this earth that I could have possibly done. Of course, I just picked I just randomly picked a street that I knew was in Kentucky and only in Kentucky. Here's the truth of it, and I'll be honest with you. The street that I would have probably taken home if I was going to take something other than 71 or 75 northbound is I could have, and US 27 is not only up here in northern Kentucky, but it goes from up in Detroit, Michigan, all the way down to, I forget where in Florida. I've been on 27 in both states, okay? So I know for a fact that it's in Florida and Michigan, okay? But what I could have done is got on US 27 northbound, which coming from Lake Cumberland, if I'm remembering right, would be a left-hand turn at the red light, and you'll go north, I think. Because it goes like, goes left, right, like if you're facing, towards 75. But I believe it's a left-hand turn to go north on 27 as you're coming from Lake Cumberland. And what would happen is I could get on US 27, drive all the way all the way up here on 27, and never have to get on the interstate, unless I chose to when I got to Lexington. Okay. That's one way to go home. I picked some arbitrary, goofy-ass way home for the story that I rewrote for the book that if I could ever get $200 together, I would get published. Now, the only other difference, if I decided to take Somerset, or, take US 27 home from Somerset to up here, would be, I'd either hop on the interstate in Lexington, or if I stayed on 27 the whole way, at one point, I would probably either hop on Kentucky 9 and get on 275 to 471 to take her home. To bypass all the malarkey from, Alexandria to Cold Spring to Highland Heights, to bypass all that stuff there. That would be another route that I would take her home. And I would also, well, actually, I would end up, dropping the kids off at, like, my grandma's house, because she lived in Wilder, which is, near there. I would have just dropped the kids off, and had their parents come pick them up. I would have just stayed on 9 and taken my cousins home to my grandma's house, to our grandma's house in Wilder, which was off of, was off of 9. So, I just dropped them off, and then what I'd do is, like, I would, if I wanted to, I could get back on 27, and then take her on home, like, well, actually, at one point I would have to have gotten on, I would have to get on 471 to take her home at that point. I'd get on 27 just long enough to head south to get on to 471 north near the Beverly Hills Supper Club. I have an extensive knowledge of this area. It's like I know all kinds of, like, in and out of, like, ways around and everything. And my thought is, as far as, like, the Hook story goes, like, I picked, like, like an arbitrary road and an arbitrary bridge in Kentucky, like, north of, Lake Cumberland and south of Lexington. And I invented an insane asylum that was there. I was like, there's a criminally insane, asylum. I don't know. I mean, LaGrange, the main prison that I know of somebody being in it, is over there by Louisville. So, which would be Gary Gamper. I mentioned him in, the DNA testing in a previous video about, Criminally Yours. If you want to hear the story about him, watch that video. But yeah, seriously, I mean, I don't think that there's an insane asylum there, so that was like another thing that was inaccurate. And, because the only insane asylum that I know of is closed, okay? And it's Waverly Asylum in Louisville. So, I don't think so, okay? But seriously though, and it's like, another thing is, The Hook is a very popular tale. I mean, just, and I'll be honest with you, both, Stephen D. Markowitz, that wrote Bloody Mary here, and of course, Alvin Schwartz here with, Scary Stories wrote about The Hook. And it's a very, I mean, if you stop and think about it, you probably know like 3 different versions of The Hook. I mean, I between those two plus the version that I wrote plus, some of the other ones, like there's a book, I forget, I think Alvin Schwartz mentions that other book in his book. Look here, I could tell you for sure if it's in here. Let's see, because it's like, I swear it was in here. Let's see. Shoot. Let's look here. Because I remember him talking about, let me look here and see if it's even listed. Oh, let's see, The Babysitter. Yeah, The Hook. Okay, the hook is in here. But yeah, let me look here and see her song. But oh, here it is. Yeah, but yeah, there's, according to him in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, this book, there's parallels. It was Barnes, Emmerich Folk, and Parochetti and Thigpen. Yeah, so, are related, tales, those are apparently the authors. But yeah, seriously though, there's, several different versions of the hook, like, a couple, like in Alvin Schwartz's story, and even in Stefan D. Markowitz's story, couples out, a guy and a girl's out necking, and, they're, being romantic and stuff, and they're up on Lover's Lane, and, well, like, in Alvin Schwartz's version, they hear the radio announcement that, an escaped lunatic has escaped from the mental hospital, and, it's like he has a hook for a hand instead of a hand. One of his hands is not a hand, it's a hook. And, the girl hears the, scratching on her door, blah, blah, blah. Makes the guy take her home. In the version that Stefan Markowitz, tells the same basic thing, except for they don't hear the announcement, but the girl hears the, thing on the door and gets home, blood splatter, blah, blah, blah. Well, seriously, there's those two. There's ones where it's like, the boy, like they hear the scratching, and then, the guy goes and gets help because the car won't start, and the girl hears, something like that. And what happens is like the girl, somehow, like, they go look at, like, the police are notified to look for the couple, and, the police show up, or like they see the car parked there, and the police, get the girl out of the car, and they, tell her the one thing that you should never tell a person to do. If you don't want them to look back, don't tell them to not look, because, human nature is you'll look every honking time, The police officer tells her, don't look back. And what's the girl do? She turns around and looks, and hanging from his ankles is the boy, except for he's missing his head, and his hands are going, and, she was wondering what took him so long, and it's just one of them things. Well, there's like that version. There's like several other, festive variations of both versions that I just told, and everything, but, I'm gonna pause here, and, I'm gonna, think of some other scary stories. I'm gonna pause here for myself, but, I still do invite you, and I'm gonna say this now at the end of this video, I still do encourage you all to, send me your videos if you have scary story videos. And if you want to know what my restrictions are, or you've forgotten, go back and watch my first two videos on this playlist, and, that'll refresh your memory, okay? Because, the second video, namely, is the one that's got the rules on it, if you want to submit to me, okay? But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and watch for, if you're going to turn a video into me, keep an eye out for it. I will add it, trust me. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and, I may have some more videos, scary story videos for you soon, alright? So hang on.